We are now live.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for waiting out us getting a quorum here. Starting of the Middleton Airport Commission meeting, Thursday, June 6th, 2024. And I'll ask Brian to start off with roll call.
Sure. Alder Jackson.
Here.
Mr. Hamilton.
Here.
Chair Lorman.
Here.
Ms. Randall.
Here.
Okay. We have 4 individuals attending.
Okay. Fantastic. All right, first off, city posting. Proof of our posting. I do see it on the city website. We have it at the front door of the city.
Yep, the notice was properly posted as required.
And Rich is nodding his head. Okay, thank you very much. Next, public comment. So public comment is each person will be able to speak for 3 minutes. I'll get a timer set up here. And you have 3 minutes to speak. I'll just look at the top here as the way I see it acknowledged on my screen, and I'll just call your name, and really all you have to do is state your name and where you're from, and then you may proceed. I first see Tanya Cunningham, and you can unmute and speak.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I wish to speak to the question of situating the approach to runway 1 at the Middleton Airport. I am not in favor of shortening the approach to runway 1. I feel that it's would be a reduction in safety to pilots and to persons and structures on the ground. The protected approach area is necessary for normal airport operations. And I believe that this issue should not really be addressed until the airport plan is decided upon, the next airport plan is decided upon. I've been involved with the Middleton Maury Airport since 1975, variously as an employee and user of the airport, and continue to be a user of the airport to this day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Okay, see any more raised hands? Okay, next is
Sorry,
Neil
Mr. Chair, we have Mr.
Oh.
Neil Robinson has his hand up.
Yep, I was gonna say Neil Robinson is next.
Greetings, folks. Thanks again for taking my comments. I too would like to speak against the proposal to displace the threshold of runway 1. Runway 119 is usable as is for training as the perspective of a flight instructor. I would not want it any shorter. It would be unpleasantly marginal to have it any shorter when attempting to train students to use soft field runways for takeoffs and landings, and that is a required maneuver for the private pilot syllabus. So I would prefer that the runway 119 not be usably shortened at all, and further, if this proposal to shorten the usability of the runway by building obstructions in the clear zone south of it is approved, where does that stop? Can somebody build a radio tower just south of the airport? I think it sets a bad precedent to waive the rules, and I agree with the previous commenter that any action on this prior to approval and adoption of the overall master plan is inadvisable. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Next hand raised is Tom Adler. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Tom Adler. I'm a user, a pilot of the Middleton Airport, have been since 2012. I would also like to speak against shortening the approach to runway number 1. I feel it's a good safety option to have that runway depending on the wind conditions. I would like to have that available to me in certain wind conditions for safety reasons. I also feel, for those that are concerned about noise, this runway is actually a better option and overflies less populated, residential populated areas than the paved runway 1028. I would also echo the previous comments that this is something that should be addressed in the airport master plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adler. Okay, do we have any more public comment? No other hands are raised. I just see other people listening in. Okay. Thank you much. Moving on to the next item, approval of the minutes. I've reviewed the minutes from our April 4th meeting, and I did not have any comments or corrections, so I'll accept the minutes as they are posted. Commission members, if you have any anything to review or note, let me know now. Otherwise, we'll accept them as posted. Okay, thank you much.
Mr. Chair, before
Yeah.
we move on to the next item, we have to go back and do the introduction of new
Oh, you
commission
will.
member Carl Randall.
Yep, I was going to do that during my report. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
I just wanted to have an item on the agenda for our newest commission member Carl Randall to introduce herself to the commission members. Just again, because it's the first time you've probably met her, just to have her introduce herself so you know who you're working with.
Well, great. Thanks,
And-
Brian.
Yep.
Thanks, Gabe.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, well, I'm Cara Randall. I'm a lifelong resident of Middleton, born and raised, and graduate of Middleton High School. I have a science background, a degree in exercise physiology and psychology, healthcare. That's my avocation, if you will. But I have more recently have a passion for general aviation. I actually got my general aviation experience in the Caribbean internationally and learned about the benefits of that and the importance of airports and to the community and to the broader environs. And so I became a private pilot almost 5 years ago now, and I really am committed to the city of Middleton and to the airport. So I'm glad to serve.
Well, thank you very much. And it is the city and commission's honor to have your volunteer time and effort being given. Thank you. And to that end, I'd also like to restate as we head into the summer here, as part of my manager's report, to thank everybody for their volunteer time and effort that they put in, especially as we head into the events at the airport coming up. The enormous amount of work, an extra amount of hours that everybody puts in. Rich is pretty much living at the airport, evenings and weekends, coordinating and keeping the environment safe. Capital Flight is organizing and donating obviously a lot of time and effort into their upcoming event. And then the whole series of ongoing events that are routinely reported on in the manager's report that continue at the airport, sponsored through the local EAA chapter, Willa Brown Aviation Academy, Wings to Fly, and I think I've got our community events covered, and it's all done on the time and effort of volunteers and the time and effort of pilots donating their aircraft and resources to make that happen. So once again, thank you for making the summers really enjoyable to the community and especially the youth in the area, getting them involved. The other piece of my report, I'll save for the end during the UL summary discussion. And otherwise, just to keep reminding the commissioners, call it my homework assignment for you, but continue to review and read the airport section for the comprehensive plan. It's, the city will be taking this under review. The city does it routinely. Every department, division, and committee and commission looks at their piece. So it's a good opportunity for us to simply make sure that it's represented accurately. And that's all I got. So on to the manager's report.
Okay, if it pleases the committee, I will summarize the 2 months activity in just one report.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Please.
Fairly straightforward.
Have at it, Rich, as you see fit.
Okay, so from April 1st through May 29th, there were a total of 8 overflighter noise complaints. I think these were made by 6 individuals. They were made in the normal manner through the city site via my business email, phone calls to the hotline and to the Maury Airplane Company. In looking at all of this, no violations of the FAA regulations were apparent in any of the reports. All of the individuals requested a follow-up were contacted. No aircraft accidents or incidents on the field in this time period. Of course, the mowing has commenced and operations on the grass runways have commenced. Other news, the Glacier's Edge Boy Scout troop conducted a wilderness first aid training class in the Maury Conference Room April 7th and 8th. That was done at no charge to the Scout troop. We are happy to let the meeting room go to all community organizations that wish to use it. EA Chapter 93 had their Visual Meteorological Conditions Club meeting both on April 11th and May 9th. Two good topics were discussed. There was a safety seminar April 25th in the Maury Conference Room, 19 attended. Experimental Aircraft Association Young Eagles event was canceled due to the weather, unfortunately. Then in May 18th, 7 young people were given aircraft rides and experiences through the Willa Brown Aviation Club. And that is the extent of our activities, although we did have a safety seminar Monday night. We'll talk about that in the next commission meeting or next report. Future events would have been the Madison Air Traffic Controller Safety Seminar that was held June 3rd, a couple days ago. Chapter 93, we want to make sure everyone has this on their calendar. July 7th is the fly-in pancake breakfast be held on the Maury ramp and in the Maury maintenance hangar. Capital Flight, Rock the Ramp, July 19th, and Capital Flight's Cruise In, August 10th. And that completes my report.
Thank you. And then the follow-up, and I think it's okay to get this information from Rich Bryan. Aging snowplow?
I'm sorry?
We had an aging snowplow. Is there any?
We have an aging snowplow, indeed.
Okay.
Huh? Do you think you'll be longer?
Oh, we need to, okay, that's good. Go ahead, Rich. Somebody wasn't muted.
Oh, yeah. Well, all right. We have 2 what I would call county type trucks out there. One of which we purchased from Town of Barry back in 2005 or thereabouts. Another one was a more recent purchase. The older one is indeed surplus. It sits outside. It is runnable, but we don't use it very often. So we certainly could try to sell that. I don't know what value it would have, but that is owned by the airport itself in the city, not by More Airplane Company. Otherwise, the equipment that we have, the old Sperry New Holland, is still in fine functional. That was another acquisition about 2005, and then that Caterpillar tractor we have fairly recently. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's not aging out at all. So I'm not quite sure what you were asking me, Dave. So
Oh, okay. I just seemed like that was a discussion point last time and maybe needed some follow-up, but I leave it to your discretion. Then, if there's, I guess, if something to sell. Or if we
yeah,
want to go a deeper dive, Rich could work directly with the city on this. I don't know if this is so much of a commission issue.
Yep, I can discuss it with Rich.
Okay.
yeah. Just
Okay, I'll
just as
stay out of
as a philosophical point, I like having spares. Even
Sure, sure.
that old piece of equipment is functional. We can get it started, and it would work in a pinch if the newer unit blows a hose and we have to clear a runway.
Okay.
We have other options, but considering how little we'd actually get probably for the sale of that, it's kind of nice to keep a spare around that's not eating a lot, or it's already paid for. So
Sure. No,
okay.
we can stay out of the details of that and leave that to you and the city to work out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, on to our review and discussion of action items. Brian, did we want to move then item number 1, financials, just down to, I guess, item number 4?
Yeah, we can address the other discussion items first and then come back to that one. Yep.
And then we'll start out with item number 2 is item number 1, and then Greg Stern is on hand. So looks like we're lined up to start item number 2. I'll read off the title and then Brian will have you take it away. So we have review, discussion, and potential action. Whoops. I'm jumping ahead. That's capital flight. Did we want to move that down or I'm sorry.
No, you can move the items around as you so choose, but if you wanted to address that item as number 1, we could do that now.
Yeah, let me just see who's online here. Is Matt Hofeld online?
Not that I can see. No.
Okay, so let's do this then. Let's move.
I'm here, Dave.
Oh, you are? Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Matt, we'll just review item number 2, review discussion potential action items of Capital Flight LLC special event permit request to host Rock the Ramp. And just for the commission, so they understand, we're not here to review and discuss actions and review from license and ordinance. We are here simply to review, let's just call it the operational technical impact at the airport. So if the commission has any questions regarding this. Matt, if you want to give us just a brief high-level summary of call it your action for organizing and operational elements that affect airport operations, and that should be sufficient.
Sure. So Rock the Ramp comes back for its 7th year. Certainly going to be, the best year, hopefully ever. Continues to grow, continues to see a lot of public attendance, and that's fantastic. Responding to kind of that growth year after year, adding restroom facilities, first aid, tents with the fire department, having EMS instead of on standby, actually on the field. We started that last year. They'll be here again this year. The biggest change, besides adding more food truck options and sort of all of that layout, changing that around just a little bit. Rich and I have gone through that, but fundamentally the same as it would affect the airport. The shutdown of the field as it relates to arrivals and departures will be about 35 minutes longer than it was last year. One of the greatest pieces of feedback that we got that people loved was the air show component. So instead of a single act, this year will be a 3-act air show, bringing Mike Ugulian back, 2-ship Next Gen Eagles act, and RJ Gritter. So the air show component will be expanded. We've got a fantastic air boss, Mr. Wayne Boggs, coming in. He does Oshkosh, Sun and Fun, a lot of the really big ones. So very excited to have that experience on. And that's really about it from the operational standpoint at the airport. Times are really, for the most part, set up and tear down the same. We've tightened those things up last year quite a lot, and this year setup really happens on Thursday. Teardown happens on Saturday. So it's pretty well orchestrated at this point to minimize impact to normal operations during the time when the event is going on. It's pretty darn neat.
Great, thank you very much. Rich, have you reviewed the proposal and technical side of it? Any questions, concerns in terms of movement, people, places, spaces, and?
Nope, I think I draw everyone's attention to the diagram with the at the main entrance and just east or west of that is a line that says pilots only beyond this point. It's very critical to maintain that. There's a lot of really neat airplanes parked over on the other side too, and people do want to go over there, but they really should not be there. So I know we've done a good job last year with the volunteers keeping people contained to where they need to be, and I'm sure that'll happen again this year. No problem whatsoever. Matt and I work out fairly well on all of that, so shouldn't be an issue.
Okay, great. Commission members, any thoughts, input, or feedback to Rich and Matt?
Really important question, Matt. Will there be tacos? Really?
I believe there will be tacos.
All right.
I think there's two Mexican style food trucks this year, but Jade handles all of the food trucks, but I think you can be assured there'll be a taco available for you.
I just want to wish you good luck, and you run a great event and a safe event. So we're looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Brian, should the commission then make a motion to approve the plan as submitted by Capital Flight for the to hold the event at the airport July 9th? Would that
Yes,
be?
that would be an appropriate motion, correct.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we accept the plan for Capital Flight LLC special event to be hosted Rock the Ramp July 19th, and I would need a second from a commission member on that.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. And we'll take a vote on those. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And Dave, did you want me to address cruise-in as well? I guess I didn't do that.
Is that on here, Brian? No.
It is not. No, that would have to be a separate item.
Okay, so.
Okay. And that's in August, so I can come and kind of explain that, next commission meeting is fine.
Yep, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Yep, thank you for your time. Okay. Next up in order of items, we'll get down to item review, discussion, and potential action on incorporating additional alternative airport layout plan to remove the runway protection zone from the airport road and adjacent parcels and relocation onto Middleton Municipal Airport Murray Field. Brian, please take it away for a summary and some guidance.
Yes, thank you. So as I mentioned in the agenda meeting notes, there's been a request from adjacent property owners south of Airport Road to have the city and the Airport Commission consider relocating the southern RPZ triangle off of those parcels and Airport Road back onto the airport, municipal airport property proper. and that's something that we've had some initial discussions to understand what the requirements would be from BOA and FAA. They've asked us to put together an image to show what that would look like, and so that's the image that's included in your packet materials. I've asked Greg Stern from Mead Hunt to be available this evening to answer any technical questions about the image, which I'll put up on the screen in just a moment. But again, not only does that kind of address the request from the adjacent property owners, this was an item that was flagged in the city's airport master plan for consideration because this southern RPZ encumbered properties that the city doesn't have ownership or ability to kind of change. So that was one option, is to look at relocation of that southern RPZ. So I'll put the image up on the screen for everyone to see, and then if you have any technical questions about the distances and all those things, Greg Stern from Mead Hunt is here to answer questions as well.
Okay, thank you, Brian. We'll let you pull that up. So I guess at this point, we'll open up the floor for commissioners to please ask questions of Greg Stern or Brian regarding the layout, technical implications of this. Feel free to raise your hands and be recognized, or just unmute yourself at this point and speak. David Schwartz.
Yeah, thank you. My question may be as much for Rich as anyone else, and that is I was trying to figure out, does this in any way or what way, if any, does this change glide path or takeoff direction and requirements for either the 01 turf or the 19 turf?
Well, I think I understand what you're asking, David. It's going to be, it will make landing to the north a little more challenging, effectively shortening up even with the potential for, putting the overrun in to the north. That is going to affect things. As for the traffic pattern itself, it shouldn't bother at all. It's all going to be pretty much the same thing. It possibly could bring the base leg for one in a little bit further north. Probably not a great deal, though, to be honest. It is, and the best I feel what we can do while honoring the landowner's request to move the clear zone off of their property.
Any other questions from commission members? Pretty quiet. Brian?
I'll try it here. Yeah, I guess just some thoughts on just the RPZ in general, and should the RPZ, should that plan be approved, maybe the BOA can go a little bit over some of the restrictions of potential obstructions or things that would keep that approach safe, even though it wouldn't technically be in the RPZ. What are some of the restrictions of that property as far as height requirements, that type of thing? Just some.
Yeah, and just want to be careful that the discussion is germane to the topic in front of us, but just very broadly, any property in this area is governed by two things that kind of guide development. One would be the zoning for the property, and the second would be the building height limitations that exist via ordinance around the area by the airport. Depending, I don't have them right up in front of me, but the building height restrictions would be 50 feet, but in some cases, the zoning itself would have a more restrictive building height. And in my understanding, and I'd have to go back and verify this, is that the zoning for that parcel would be a max of 35 feet, but I'd want to verify that.
Okay, that's really all I was asking. Thanks for clarifying, Brian.
Yep. just so everybody knows, the overlay map is on the city website. And so what you can basically do is pull that up, and what you'll see is very small little incremental boxes in it. And each box shows you the maximum height. So everything is listed very much from an aviation perspective. So it shows the field at field elevation. And then as you get outside Rich, go ahead.
Oh, no, you finish up, Dave, and then I'll talk.
Oh, okay. Rich is more qualified to really state this than I am. But as you look at that map, then what you'll see in each little box is what the overlay limitations are. And then you'll see as you move out from the airport, the overlay changes, kind of almost like an upside down chart for aviation. Okay, thank you, Rich.
Oh, yeah. Just to perhaps clarify also what David asked, in training on that grass runway landing, I can't recall anyone ever touching down south of the paved runway. They've all of my students tend to touch down north of that. So the displaced threshold may well simply be reflecting the reality of most, if not all, of the users of that grass runway. It definitely, on paper, it shortens things up, but the reality is no one's touching down much shorter than that anyway. And I know Matt's probably still on or whatever, but the Huskies and the Super Cubs and the aircraft like that operate pretty much exclusively north of the paved runway, again, within the parameters of what's being proposed.
Rich, did you want me to make a comment there?
Whatever you would like, Matt. I wasn't inviting one, but I just do from watching Bo and the rest of the guys operate. They pretty much always run north of the runway.
Yeah, it would be hard to disagree with Rich on that one. From my standpoint, I worry a bit more about the longer term effects of shortening that runway as it relates to how the FAA perceives its usefulness, what that might do in the future to that runway and its existence as a whole. I don't like to see runways shortened in general, even if that appears to be the usage. We've had, I think it was an incident many years ago with a tail dragger that did land long. They got on the brakes pretty hard and went over. And, if that runway had been another 400 or 500 feet long, probably wouldn't have happened. But I fundamentally disagree with the shortening of runways. It just has potential long-term effects that could be damaging. And, from my side, I would not be in favor of such a move, without making that runway whole another way. So that's kind of my take on that.
Thanks, Matt.
And for the record, I don't disagree with Matt at all on any of that. I'm not in favor of shortening a runway by any means. I'm just saying, if we are going to allow the property owner the use of his property, this is the best option that I can come up with using the existing property.
Thank you, Rich. Commissioner Randall, your hand is up. You may speak.
Yes, I think this question may be for Rich. It's more for my edification about the RPZ. Does it begin at the surface on up to infinity, or are there different dimensions vertically for that?
I would pass that one on to Mead and Hunt, as they can give you precise versus I can give you about what I remember, whatever Mead and Hunt told me last time. So
yeah, sure. I could touch on that. Can you all hear me all right?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, real good. So yeah, the RPZ is that trapezoidal shape that's shown there on on the drawing. I'm not sure if we should pull that up again. Yeah, thanks, Brian. And that is the area of the RPZ, so it doesn't extend beyond that, and it's a two-dimensional shape, and it's not vertical. It's not associated with the approach, but it's an area that's intended to protect people and property on the ground. And its position is relative to the Torah. So there's these 4 declared distances. 3 of them are associated with takeoff, and the 4th is the landing distance. And so the position of the RPZ is always 200 feet from the end of the takeoff run available, the Torah. So I can speak to that more, but I think that might answer your question. If
It does, Greg. Yeah,
follow-ups.
thank you.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Yep.
Thank you, Greg. Anybody else have any other questions? Anybody else have any other thoughts or recommendations? Otherwise, I think as Rich said, and as public comment stated tonight, and as I will also state for myself, no, I would never support the loss of any runway or any amount of runway in any way whatsoever. It's contrary to everything that a pilot and makes sense for the safe and effective operation of the airport. But getting and staying, specific to this, what we're really at, what Brian and what the city has put before us, because what the city is up against is at this point, this, we have in front of us a plan, and this plan would be whether we, I guess I'm breaking it into 2 pieces, as it's shown technically, to be submitted to the airport layout plan, because then this way the state looks at it and says, okay, this is one of the possible configurations that the airport has to implement. Does it mean we're implementing it today or tomorrow or next week or next month? We don't know. Would that be a safe assumption, Brian?
Yes, I mean, that review of this would be up to the FAA and their review schedule and timeline.
Yeah. So, so it puts, and I guess I'm just, putting my thoughts out there. Do I want to shorten the runway? No, but the city is in a position where it doesn't have any options. So how do I feel about this diagram in front of us in terms of technically, is it viable? Yes. So that's kind of where I'm at, and just wanted to throw that out there. And if any other commissioners have any thoughts or anything they want to express along those lines, please go ahead. Okay.
David, this is Greg. I just was going to throw out one comment if I could. I think we are, if the commission does elect to show this on the ALP, the way we would show it would be as listed as an interim condition. And so when the FAA gives their guidance on declared distances, they make a statement that the use of declared distances is an interim condition ensuring flight safety until other implements can be incorporated. So that might be maybe something for the commission to discuss, but I think that would be the intended way we would depict it on the airport layout plan. So we have an existing condition. There's a future condition of the runway, but this would be an interim condition.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's encouraging. Well, okay, let's make a motion. So the motion in front of the Airport Commission at this time is to incorporate additional alternatives to the airport layout plan to remove the runway protection zone from the airport road and adjacent parcels and relocate onto the Middleton Municipal Airport Field. Do I have a second for this?
I'll second it.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of accepting it as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Nay.
One nay. Okay. Thank you very much. And Brian, you have that recorded.
I do, thank you.
Okay.
David, I'm sorry, I was muted. I was a nay.
Okay. Oh, Brian, do we need to do roll call?
Yeah, just it would be easier for the minutes.
Okay, I'm just going to start reading off from the top as I see it. Commissioner Randall,
Nay.
Lorman, aye. Hamilton,
Nay.
Jackson,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay. 3-2. All right, thank you. Brian, do we want to do financials, I guess, right?
Yeah, we can do it. Just give me one moment to pull them up here.
Sure.
Okay, monthly financial sheet is up here on your screen. Again, as with past months, there's not a whole lot in terms of stuff coming in, stuff going out. It's pretty even keel over the course of the year and on a monthly basis. But happy to take any questions you might have, and if I don't have answers for them, I will check back with the finance staff and get you answers and bring them back at the next meeting.
I have no input. I just always look through it to look for surprises, which there aren't any. Boring is good. Okay, commissioners, any input for financials for the period? Okay. All those in favor of accepting the financials as presented, please say aye.
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Just want to make sure for the minutes. So motion from Chair Lorman to accept financials. Any
Oh, I'm sorry.
comment
Yep.
on that?
Do I have a second?
This is Jackson. I'll second.
All righty. Now we can vote. All those in favor of accepting financials?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you much, everybody. All right, lastly but leastly, update presentation on avgas at the Middleton Airport. Brian, you want to bring that up on the screen? And I'll just tell you what to flip through the slides. Thank you very much, Brian. All right. What I want to do is just give a brief high-level summary of this. The reason I'm sharing this with the commission is last month, people in the community and elected members of the community were asked to give some presentations to a few different classes at the Middleton High School. These were AP classes and sustainability and other types of related things. So I said, well, great. I'll educate these young people everything they need to know about aviation fuel and everything they never knew and everything they didn't want to know. So I put together a presentation, and what you have before you is a summary. There's some sections I've cut out of it. But really the intent of the presentation was, and Brian, you can go to the second slide, was to, Brian, is that blank because it was blank, or there you go. Yeah, you got it. You're right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Brian. I made it a little bit fancy. Was really, they probably didn't even know that lead existed in the fuel that powers the piston-powered airplanes. So a little overview of why tetraethyl lead exists. And Brian, you can go to the next slide. And what really put this on the city's radar, and that was, of course, the environmental impact. Acknowledging that lead is a known toxin to humans and the environment, giving them a little bit of history on it. How it really its common use, of course, was an automotive fuel, and to kind of give them a perspective of where we are at today in terms of consumption of fuel in general, because this was about sustainability, environmental impact. So it's pretty clear that obviously automobiles are the significant largest impact on our environment in general, where avgas is only 1.4% of all fuel consumed in the US. And Brian, you can go to the next slide. And I wanted to give a perspective of things locally, because obviously, what happens to that lead that's in the fuel and what the local impact is. And so there's 3 years of data out there in recent time, not 3 years, 3 cycles of data out there from the EPA showing you, in 2014, 2017, and 2020, the airborne lead impact just from the airport. And what you see in front of you is a study from Washington State University that shows lead, the highest exposure of lead in the community, risk exposure to children, and red being bad, and magenta or blue being much lower risk. And there's the airport up there in the left corner of the screen. So, again, not minimizing that lead is impactful to the environment, but the airport's local threat and contribution to the community isn't as high as some other areas within Dane County. I peppered it with a little bit of information, just kind of, what does it mean when there's tetraethyl lead in a gallon of gas, and just doing the numbers, the chemical itself, what it actually comes out to be in a gallon of gas. But I don't know how that even equates to an emission level, and couldn't even really find anything. But I wanted to make that clear so there was some understanding of it. And Brian, next slide, please. So this kind of gets to, and the reason it was so technical, and Brian, you can just kind of flip to bring up the text on the screen there. There you go. Oh, look at that fanciness. What this really got to was trying to explain to the students was, there's such a technical discussion behind this process that to even understand it, you got to learn about it. And so I started going about that by saying, okay, let's talk about unleaded fuel, because that's what we want to get to. So this is our current state of unleaded fuel. A map of its distribution and kind of showing the students, and this is things we've already reviewed in the Airport Commission, but roughly, how much, what percentage of aircraft are capable of running unleaded fuel, when what that breaks down to locally and nationally. And we are locally pretty much in line with what we're at nationally in terms of our capability to use unleaded fuel. And next slide, Brian. Then, really letting them know why this all happened. And that's because we obviously have this target date of 2030 set obviously by the FAA in conjunction with the EPA. So they've set the target date of 2030 to discontinue low lead fuel. And then I highlighted who kind of the players in this arena are, being there are 3 contenders out there in the arena of aviation fuel. And as you know from what we've been doing as a commission, it's getting pretty complicated behind the scenes of trying to get something sorted out. But obviously, with 3 major players out there, the viability obviously looks pretty strong. And then to try to throw this whole concept out there without going down something really crazy technical, what is an STC and what is ASTM? Because, these are the two things that are really driving getting this fuel out there. And really had last month put Rich on to a task, and Rich did the task and got some very interesting information. But bottom line was, as long as an aviation fuel has an STC approval, we're thinking, even though the manufacturer says the fuel is completely fungible with a leaded fuel, in other words, you can mix a 100 unleaded with a 100 leaded, you can't mix a fuel that has an STC with a fuel that doesn't. So we can't mix an STC approved 100 unleaded fuel into our leaded fuel tank. And that's a really significant thing to point out, because that's where we are at today. So that means the two fuels have to stay physically separate. Next slide, Brian. This was just a little visual for them so they kind of understand, this is what you see, from a working perspective when you go up to an airplane and you want to put fuel in it. And this kind of highlights a little bit of getting to what Leora Liu said at the FAA. And that FAA, they don't certify fuel. And that's really an important distinction to make and understand moving forward. Next slide, Brian. And then, of course, the ASTM portion of it, because, the ASTM portion of it versus the STC portion of it are two different regulatory stages and processes. Next slide, Brian. And then, again, this is a snapshot of where we are at right now. So here's somebody's airplane out there that has an STC that can actually run the UL 100. And trying to, illustrate the complexity of this, that you have to go through this process, you have to get the STC, you have to put it on your airplane, and then you have to obviously find a place that has that fuel. And the next slide, Brian. And then here you go. Here's a typical example, obviously, of fuels that fall under ASTM and what the placard looks like on an aircraft. And the next slide, Brian. And then this was just a timeline to sort of put it together of, how long the leaded aviation fuel's been around. Rich would know this history. I had a hard time finding it, but there was this this dark age of UL 82, 85. Maybe it was the dark age of the 1980s. I don't know. But interesting nonetheless, very short-lived. And then, of course, as you see, really starting in 2010 and moving up to where we are now between the US and the EU, a movement to really get into the UL 94 arena. And really, you think about the time frame of 2022, that's when an unleaded 100 solution started to get talked about. It's just not that long ago in the scheme of things. All right, next slide, Brian. And this was just a visual, really, of where the city's at. Trying to look back at everything, so here's the timeline, 2010 through 2023 is really when EPA started to talk about this. And the city, just digging back through notes and memos and meeting minutes, right around 2020, the city just stated its intent to really explore and go down the road of UL. And of course, you all know where we are now. Next slide, Brian. And just a quick little snapshot, of course. Remember, as an airport commission, we did talk about maybe putting in a third fuel tank for about $360,000. So I just wanted to have a little visual there. So, you know, this is what a fuel tank looks like. It's a pretty big thing and it's a pretty big commitment. And the next slide, Brian. So we bought us a truck, a little bit smaller, a little bit easier to manage. It has wheels and, you know, maybe we can sell it someday. And next slide, Brian. Future of aviation, the one and only certified electric airplane in the United States. And maybe you all were following this or maybe not, but this is what was interesting. The FAA wouldn't certify this airplane because the language for certifying a light sport airplane said piston powered. Nobody ever thought it would be electric. So they had to rewrite the language to put the word electric in it. So it's not that the FAA wouldn't approve the operation of this small electric aircraft. They simply didn't have the language in their archaic rules and regulations. And they just recently updated it. And so this airplane is certified and can operate in the US. And it'll give you about 1 hour flight time. But you better hope that come 60 minutes, you have a runway directly underneath you. Otherwise, probably about 45 minutes maybe. But even then, I don't know, I'm pretty skittish. I'd be a little nervous with a 15-minute window as well. I'd be okay with 15 minutes in the pattern within a 1 mile glide radius. And that's being proficient at power off landings. But we'll get there. All right, next slide. And of course, wanted to talk a little bit about biofuel, not so much of an issue at our airport. I think it's one of those things that will just happen over time, is the implementation of sustainable aviation fuel. It'll probably maybe someday just be in the Jet A tank and it'll be probably a non-issue. I don't know, kind of hard to tell, but I wanted to throw that in there because, you know, as you know, in some parts of the world, Jet A powered piston engines are also, you know, an option being explored and has some viability. But again, it's cost of development, you know, getting the manufacturers obviously to integrate into airframes and so on and so forth. But it's there. And lastly, but not leastly, Brian, the way advanced future obviously is possibly the development of hybrid aircraft, combination of power systems and or power cells and or hydrogen. So yeah, there's obviously one out there on operating, and then some references at the end. And what you'll note is most of it all comes from the EPA. It's just a matter of finding the information at the EPA and trying to make some sense of it. So with that, I think that should address that. I think it's fair game, you know, for us as a commission to keep a very close eye on this and to really be a source of guidance for the city and a source of information for the community at large as to you know, where the airport's at, what we're going to do with the future of aviation fuel. Anybody have any thoughts about my presentation or challenge what I have to say?
I thought it was great and informative. Nicely done.
All right. Well, thanks. I appreciate that.
Agreed. Excellent, David. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, it's and I think we're doing a fine job of really staying informed, staying educated on this, and behind the scenes, like I said, Rich, your hands up.
Yeah, I didn't want to jump in. I just outstanding job. I'd like to have you do that presentation to well, okay, I'll be quiet and I'll be good.
Oh,
But
no,
there are people that need to hear this. Let's put it
Well,
that way.
I'm glad. I would gladly bring it to the airport at a chapter meeting or something. But behind the scenes, Rich has received requests from myself or from Brian or from others, and it's like, hey, Rich, we need you to reach out to this fuel distributor A or distributor B or distributor C and do some research and get us some information. And and some of that information, it's really quite useful because it's instructive. It's helping us understand these are who the distributors are. This is where they're, geographically located, and this is what they're capable and not capable of doing. So, and I really appreciate, that ongoing work, Rich, because I think we're doing what we can do, and we can only move as quickly as I guess the industry is going to allow us to.
Yeah, we've discovered, as in every industry, I think the press releases are always very optimistic. And when you talk to the actual distribution network, the reality doesn't always meet those boasts or promises. So we're seeing that the availability just isn't there right now.
Yeah, and that was a real eye opener to me when we literally reached out to them and said, okay, what will it take you to get, us a delivery of UL 100 to our truck? And all of a sudden they're like, well, we're not ready. We can't do that. Or, oh, by the way, hate to tell you, but because it only has an STC, we can't come up here and just, put it in your tank. So, but we're trying. And if you look at what's going on around the US and especially California and some other places like that, there's some very interesting legal stuff going on. And like I've said in the past, I think they're going to do all the work for us to kind of get us where we want to be with this. And it's I find it almost it's interesting, it's fascinating to be part of it, to see where it'll take us. All right. Anybody else have any other questions or thoughts? Great. Future agenda items. As always, please feel free to reach out to Brian or myself with items that you believe the commission needs to address or bring up. And Brian does have a couple things kind of queued up for future meetings. There probably will not be a meeting in July because, right? What day is it on, Brian?
It would fall on July 4th.
Yeah. We could have a meeting in July, if something does come up that the commission really needs to make a rule on or help the city with. And that's it. Well, commissioners, welcome again, Commissioner Randall. We appreciate your willingness and time to participate. And,
my pleasure.
thank you. And with that,